Remember when walking through the wrong door could change your life? When sitting at the wrong counter could get you arrested? When ordering a simple cup of coffee meant putting your dignity, and sometimes your safety, on the line? The lunch counters, department stores, and diners we're about to explore weren't just places where people ate. They were battlefields. Each chrome stool, each checkered floor, each menu board became a test of American democracy. These 20 establishments represent hundreds more across the South and beyond. Places that welcomed your money but not your presence, that would take your dollar through the back door but wouldn't let you walk through the front. Let's start where the modern civil rights movement found its voice, at a Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. Picture February 1st, 1960. Four college freshmen walk into the F.W. Woolworth's store on South Elm Street around 4:30 in the afternoon. Joseph McNeil, Franklin McCain, Ezell Blair Jr., and David Richmond. They're 19 years old, studying at North Carolina A&T. They sit at the lunch counter and order coffee. Simple request. The white waitress looks at them and says exactly what they knew she would. "We don't serve." She points to the standing area at the counter's end. That's where black customers can get takeout. But sitting, eating alongside white customers? Never. These young men stay in their seats. They pull out textbooks. They do homework. For an hour, they sit there while the manager paces, while other customers stare, while an elderly black woman who works there begs them to leave, calling them stupid, ignorant rabble-rousers. The store closes at 5:30. They leave peacefully, but they come back the next day with 20 friends. The day after that, 60 protesters. Within a week, 300 people packed that counter. For 6 months, they kept coming. White counter protesters dumped food on their heads, burned them with cigarettes, beat them with fists. Police arrested them while ignoring the attackers. And the whole time, these students sat there, reading books, doing calculus homework, refusing to fight back. By July 25, 1960, Woolworths finally served its first black customers at that counter. 4 black employees ordered meals without fanfare. The policy was over. Do you remember the first time you sat at a lunch counter without thinking twice about it? Now travel to Winston-Salem, also in North Carolina, the H.L. Green Company store on North Liberty Street. This wasn't some backwater establishment. This was a major five-and-dime chain, the kind of place where working families bought everything from school supplies to Sunday dinner. Inside, they had separate sit-down lunch counters for black and white customers, plus a stand-up counter where both races could order. But notice that detail. Black people could stand to eat, just not sit. February 8, 1960, just a week after Greensboro, Carl Wesley Matthews walks into the S.H. Crest store nearby and sits at the whites-only counter. He's refused, but he stays until closing. 6 others join him. The next day, the lunch counters close with signs reading, "Closed for public safety." When they reopen 2 weeks later, protesters return. By late February, Wake Forest College students, white students, join the sit-ins. 22 people get arrested for trespassing. Outside, 75 demonstrators parade down the street singing patriotic songs and reciting prayers. The H.L. Green got hit with the same protests. Students occupied counters. White teenagers with Confederate flags tried to fill the seats first, arriving before opening to block the protesters. By May 25, 1960, Carl Matthews walked back into that Crest store and ordered a soda float. He was served. Just like that, the counters at H.L. Green and all the downtown stores opened to everyone. Can you imagine being that first person served after months of rejection? Head south to Rock Hill, South Carolina. McCrory's Five and Dime at 135 East Main Street. Built in 1901, converted to McCrory's in 1937. This store had the same setup you'd find across the South. Black customers could shop, could even order food, but they had to take it to go. No sitting. January 31st, 1961. 10 young black men walk in around 11:30 in the morning. They sit at the lunch counter. Service is refused. They don't leave. Police arrest them for trespassing. Here's where it gets revolutionary. 9 of them, the Friendship. 9 they'd come to be called, chose jail time over paying the $100 fine. Jail, no bail, they called it. Why pay money to support an unjust system? The Friendship 9 spent their time, every day of it, and their sacrifice didn't just change Rock Hill. It inspired protesters across the South to stop draining civil rights organizations' bail funds and start filling segregationists' jails instead. By later in 1961, McCrory's integrated. In 2015, 54 years later, a South Carolina judge vacated their convictions, declaring, "We cannot rewrite history, but we can write history." Would you have had that courage at 19? Let's talk about Nashville, Tennessee. Multiple lunch counters, but we'll focus on W.T. Grant Co.'s on the downtown shopping strip. Grant's was part of a massive variety store chain, over 1,000 locations nationwide by the 1950s. The Nashville store had a typical lunch counter, simple stools, quick meals, fast turnover. And like everywhere else, it had an unspoken rule. white faces only. Nashville's sit-ins were organized military style. Reverend James Lawson, he'd studied Gandhi's techniques in India, ran nonviolence workshops starting in 1958. Students practiced getting spit on, cursed at, hit. They learned to turn their heads away from blows. Never strike back, never curse. Show yourself courteous and friendly at all times. February 18, 1960. Over 200 students hit Grant's and other stores. The counters close immediately upon their arrival. February 27th, Big Saturday, 400 students sit at counters across downtown. At Grant's and elsewhere, white mobs attack. They pull students from stools, beat them with fists and clubs, stomp them, press lit cigarettes into their skin. Police arrive and arrest 81 students for disorderly conduct. The white attackers, they walk free. But here's what the segregationists didn't count on. The black community launched a boycott. Don't buy downtown. Sales at stores like Grant's dropped by a third. Some estimates put losses at $1 million. On May 10, 1960, Grant's and 5 other stores opened their lunch counters to black customers without incident. Nashville became the first major southern city to desegregate through nonviolent protest. Picture that first integrated meal. The nervousness, the defiance, the simple act of ordering a sandwich finally meaning what it should have always meant. You're a customer, and you're welcome here. Move to Birmingham, Alabama. Ollie's Barbecue at 900 University Boulevard. This place opened in 1926, serving what they claimed was the world's best barbecue right there on the sign visible from the highway. For 38 years, they served white customers inside while black customers could only get takeout. Here's the twist that makes Ollie's story so complex. They treated their black employees well, really well. Competitive pay, benefits that kept waitresses working there for years. They even provided discounted food for civil rights rallies. But integrate the dining room? That line he wouldn't cross, too afraid of losing white customers. Then came July 2nd, 1964. President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. Title II said you couldn't discriminate in public accommodations engaged in interstate commerce. The very next day, black customers walked into Ollie's demanding service. They were refused. Ollie McClung fought back. He sued the government, arguing that a small local restaurant shouldn't be subject to federal law just because some of his meat came from out of state. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court. December 14, 1964, the court ruled 9-0 against him. Ollie's integrated its dining room in late 1964. And you know what? The restaurant didn't collapse. White customers kept coming for over 3 more decades. Ollie's finally closed in 2001, not because of civil rights, but because the family wanted to retire. Do you remember learning that sometimes what we fear most is just a shadow? Now picture Atlanta, Georgia, the Pickrick restaurant on Hempel Avenue near Georgia Tech. This wasn't just any segregated restaurant. This was owned by Lester Maddox, a man who turned his racist policies into a political career. Opened in 1947, serving fried chicken that students loved. Affordable, quick, filling. But black customers never allowed inside. July 3rd, 1964. One day after the Civil Rights Act passed, 3 black seminary students, George Willis Jr., Woodrow Lewis, and Albert Dunn, walk into the Pickrick parking lot. Lester Maddox runs out screaming, "You no good dirty devils, you dirty communists!" He's waving a pistol, pointing it at these unarmed students. White customers and employees grab pickaxe handles from kegs inside. Maddox sold these as souvenirs called Pickrick drumsticks, and they chased the students away, threatening violence while cameras roll. Maddox was arrested but released on bail. His supporters rallied, bought those autographed axe handles, made him a hero of segregation. When a federal court ordered him to integrate in 1965, he closed the restaurant rather than serve black customers, put up a monument to private property rights. Then he ran for governor and won in 1966, serving until 1971. The irony? As governor, Maddox actually appointed some black officials and integrated the state patrol. Have you ever wondered what makes someone so afraid of sharing a meal? Let's talk about the fancy places. Rich's department store in Atlanta, the Magnolia Room on one of the upper floors, crystal chandeliers, murals on the walls, white tablecloths, fashion shows during lunch. This wasn't a quick lunch counter. This was where Atlanta's elite went to see and be seen. Black customers could shop at Rich's, could even get store credit more easily than at some competitors. But eat in the Magnolia Room? Absolutely not. In 1958, they added a separate, smaller cafeteria for black customers. Separate but equal, they called it, though everyone knew it wasn't equal at all. October 19, 1960, the Atlanta student movement, kids from Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Morris Brown, staged massive sit-ins across downtown. Over 50 people got arrested at Rich's Magnolia Room that day, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. This was MLK's first arrest in his hometown. hometown. Riches integrated the Magnolia Room in September 1961, along with other Atlanta lunch counters. But that happened only after months of boycotts that cost the store 13% of its sales. Only after the city's schools integrated first, so businesses could blame it on that. Only after economic pressure made segregation too expensive to maintain. Can you taste that first integrated meal? The chicken salad that finally tasted like victory? Head to McCrory's in downtown Atlanta at 74 Peachtree Street. 5 and dime store, same setup as everywhere. Shop for school supplies, household goods, penny candy, but sit at the lunch counter? Not if you were black. November 25, 1960. Over 200 students hit McCrory's and other variety stores simultaneously. They walk in, sit down, refuse to leave when denied service. WSB TV news cameras capture it all. Silent footage of young black students entering calmly, sitting at the counter amid white customers, staff standing frozen, unsure what to do. Adults join the picket lines for the first time, older generations finally standing with the youth. Across the street, Ku Klux Klan members counter picket, urging people to keep segregation alive. The boycott that followed was surgical. Don't buy downtown. Black shoppers surrendered their charge accounts, stopped coming to the retail district entirely, shopped at black-owned stores, or stayed home. Downtown sales dropped 13%, $10 million in losses. By March 1961, McCrory's and over 300 other establishments agreed to desegregate their lunch counters after the public schools integrated that fall. October 1961, black customers finally sit at McCrory's counter and order without incident. The counter didn't collapse. The food didn't change. The other customers adjusted. Life went on, just a little more equal than before. Now let's go to Baltimore, Maryland. Reed's Drug Store, corner of Lexington and Howard Streets. Beautiful Art Deco building from 1934. Flagship of a 39-store chain, soda fountain, lunch counter, quick meals for downtown shoppers and workers, and yes, a whites-only policy at every counter. January 20th, 1955, 5 years before Greensboro. 7 students from Morgan State College and members of CORE walk into 2 Reed's locations simultaneously, the downtown flagship and the Northwood Shopping Center branch. They're not planning a long protest. It's January, cold. They've got books to carry and classes to attend. Student Helena Hicks later recalled, suggesting, "Let's go inside. All they're going to do is tell us to leave." They sit at the counter, request hot drinks to warm up from the winter wind. The white manager confronts them, uses the ugliest slur you can imagine, refuses service. They stay seated for 20, maybe 30 minutes. No violence, no arrests. They leave before the police can jail them. 2 days later, just 2 days, Reed's president Arthur Natton Sr. announced complete desegregation of all lunch counters and fountains across the entire chain. "We will serve all customers throughout our entire stores, including the drinking fountains," and this becomes effective immediately. The NACP called it the first sit-in of its kind. In April 2025, 70 years later, the city finally unveiled a permanent plaque at the location, honoring those students' courage. Travel to Oklahoma City, Katz Drug Store at 101 South Hudson Avenue, August 19, 1958. This is even earlier than Baltimore, more than a year before Greensboro would make national headlines. Clara Looper, a 35-year-old history teacher, leads 13 black students into the store. They're dressed in their Sunday best. "You always dressed up for protests to counter every stereotype, to show you deserved respect." Ages range from 6 years old to 17. They sit at the whites-only lunch counter, order 13 Cokes and hamburgers. The staff refuses. "We don't serve coloreds here." So they sit and sit and sit. White patrons lose their minds, kicking the students, punching them, screaming slurs, pouring ketchup, mustard, salt, and cream over their heads. One woman dumps an entire meal in a little girl's lap. Cigarettes get stubbed out near their skin. Spit runs down their faces. And these children, because some of them are literally children, turn their heads away, sing freedom songs, pray quietly, refuse to fight back. Clara Looper had trained them for months. 15 months of preparation, role-playing scenarios of abuse, learning to respond with dignity. The students returned on August 20th and the 21st. On the third day, the store manager cracked. The economic pressure, the media attention, the community boycott threats. It was too much. He served them. All 13 students got their Cokes. Within months, Katz desegregated all 38 of its stores across 4 states. Clara Looper's 10-year-old daughter, Marilyn, had sparked this whole thing. After returning from a trip to New York, where they'd experienced integrated dining, Marilyn asked her mother why they couldn't order a Coke at their local Katz. That innocent question from a child changed Oklahoma. Can you remember asking a question that changed everything? But Oklahoma City had another battle. John A. Brown Department Store at 201 West Main Street. This was the prestige spot, the upscale department store where the city's elite shopped. 6 stories of merchandise, elegant displays, and yes, a lunch counter that refused black customers. The protests at Brown's started in late 1958, right after the Katz victory. But Brown's resisted. hard. Store management closed the counter repeatedly rather than serve black customers. When that didn't stop protesters, white teenagers started arriving before opening hours to fill every seat, blocking the demonstrators. Sit-ins in June, July, September, December of 1959 all refused. The students employed popcorn sit-ins, brief occupations that kept the pressure on without constant physical presence. They organized phone campaigns, calling repeatedly, "May we eat today?" The answer was always no. August 10, 1960, the black community launched a general downtown boycott. Every segregated store except Brown's had already integrated. Brown's stood alone. Black shoppers surrendered their charge accounts, those hard-won credit lines that had taken years to establish. They stopped coming downtown entirely. The economic impact was devastating, even though black residents were less than 10% of the population. Then came January 1961. More arrests for blocking access, more sit-ins, more refusals. The tension escalated until something unexpected happened. Della Duncan Brown, the store's owner, widow of founder John A. Brown, requested a private meeting with Clara Loop. Within a week, black patrons were served at that counter. The two women, divided by race, united by mutual respect, became friends until Mrs. Brown's death in 1967. Brown even offered to post bail for Looper's arrests and invited her on a European trip. Have you ever witnessed an enemy become a friend over something as simple as truth? Let's shift to Nashville again, but a different kind of place. Cain Sloan Department Store, the upscale rival to Harvey's and Davidson's. Cain Sloan opened its modern flagship in 1957, $12 million, air-conditioned, with escalators and a parking garage, 346,000 square feet of retail space. They had a bridal salon, a fur salon, a beauty salon. On opening day, 32,000 people visited. But that Iris Room restaurant, whites only. Cain Sloan got hit alongside all the other Nashville lunch counters in February 1960. Students dressed in suits and dresses made purchases to establish themselves as customers, then sat and requested service. The same pattern everywhere: refusal, peaceful sitting, reading textbooks, doing homework. February 27th, Big Saturday. White mobs attacked. At Cain Sloan and elsewhere, protesters were assaulted with fists, insecticide spray, spit, dumped food and drinks. Police arrested 81 students while ignoring the attackers. The boycott that followed was crushing. 20% revenue drop. An estimated $7 million in losses across downtown. Black shoppers stayed away. "Don't buy downtown" became the rallying cry. May 10th, 1960. Cain Sloan and 5 other stores opened their lunch counters and restaurants to black customers. Small groups were served quietly, with trained staff, police nearby to prevent incidents. There were none. The fears that integration would cause chaos never materialized. The Iris Room served elegant meals to black and white customers alike. The food tasted the same. The chandeliers sparkled just as bright. The fashion shows continued. Life moved forward. Can you imagine the relief of that first peaceful, integrated meal? Back to Atlanta. Davidson's department store at 180 Peachtree Street. Like everywhere else, segregated facilities. Black customers could shop but couldn't try on clothes, couldn't use white restrooms, couldn't eat in the restaurants. The message was clear: your dollars are welcome. Your presence is not. March 15, 1960. The Atlanta student movement's first major action included Davidson's, 200 students across 10 locations. November 25, 1960, over 200 students conducted sit-ins and picketing specifically at Davidson's. Alongside Rich's, Woolworth's, and others, adults joined picket lines for the first time. The Ku Klux Klan counter-picketed, waving Confederate flags, screaming to maintain segregation. The boycott cost Davidson's dearly. 13% sales drop, millions in losses during the crucial holiday shopping season. January 1961, more arrests. February 1961, escalating protests. Then came March 7, 1961, that secret meeting at the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. Black leaders and white business owners negotiating behind closed doors. The agreement: desegregate lunch counters and restaurants after public school integration in fall 1961. September 1961, Davidson's opened its facilities to black customers. The restaurant served integrated groups without incident. The store continued operating for decades until being absorbed into Macy's in the mid-1980s. The building was renovated in 2010, now hosts events and offices. But for a brief window in the early 1960s, it was a battlefield where the dignity of simply eating lunch was worth fighting for. Do you remember the first time you ate somewhere without thinking about the color of your skin? Let's talk about a place that fought harder than most. Leb's Restaurant in Atlanta, corner of Forsyth and Lucky Streets. Jewish-owned deli, opened around 1949 by Charlie Lebanon. The restaurant employed black staff, cooks, servers, busboys, but refused to serve black customers. Charlie Lebanon was defiant, put up a sign, "This restaurant is my own investment, and I intend to protect it by serving whom I please. I am within my rights." Signed, Charlie Leb, "I solicit your business." Even Atlanta's Jewish community, many of whom supported civil rights, couldn't convince him. July 18, 1962. The restaurant advertised its 13th anniversary with a full-page ad. "Come one, come all." SNCC protesters stood outside for 3 hours with the ad in hand, pointing out the lie. "Come all" apparently meant all whites. May 20th, 1963, a mixed group of black and white students demonstrated for over 4 hours. One protester claimed an employee threw him to the ground, but courts refused to issue a warrant because a police officer nearby hadn't acted. January 25th through 27th, 1964. The violence at Leb's reached its peak. SNCC protesters conducted sit-in, occupying seats, refusing to leave. Lebanon locked the bathrooms, closed the restaurant, called black police officers to remove the demonstrators. When they wouldn't budge, chaos erupted. Protesters rushed in, climbed on tables, broke furniture and windows, sang protest songs. With the bathrooms locked, some urinated on the floors, desperation creating its own form of protest. Streets filled with demonstrators. White spectators fled. The scene was bedlam. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 finally forced Lebs to integrate. But for years, Lebs represented the stubbornness of segregation, the way some people would fight tooth and nail to maintain discrimination, even as the world changed around them. Have you ever held on to something wrong just because admitting you were wrong felt impossible? We need to talk about the variety store chains that appeared in multiple cities, SH Crest stores, over 200 locations nationwide by the mid-20th century. In Greensboro, the Crest store at 105 South Elm Street became a sit-in target on February 3, 1960, just 2 days after the famous Woolworth protest began. Students from A&T and Bennett College occupied the Crest counter alongside Woolworth's. February 6th, a bomb threat at Woolworth's forced its closure, so over 1,000 demonstrators and counter-protesters converged on Crest instead. The store immediately shut down to avoid violence. April 21st, 1960, 45 students were arrested at the Crest lunch counter in the largest single-arrest event of the Greensboro protests. They were charged with trespassing, dressed formally to counter stereotypes, released on bail but determined to return. July 25th, 1960. The same day Woolworth's integrated, so did Crest. Quietly, without fanfare, black employees served as the first customers to test the new policy. Then the public. No incidents, no violence. The counter that had symbolized exclusion for decades suddenly became just a lunch counter. Anyone could sit, anyone could order, anyone could enjoy a simple meal. In Atlanta, the Crest store opened in 1902, relocated to a new building at 39 Whitehall Street in 1936. Same segregation policy as everywhere. March 15, 1960, it was one of 10 locations targeted in the first major Atlanta sit-ins. 77 students arrested. October 19th and 20th, 1960, over 50 more arrests as protests escalated. The economic pressure worked. By early 1961, Crest was losing money, downtown sales dropping, white business leaders panicking. March 7th, 1961, the agreement: desegregate in the fall after school integration. September 1961, Crest opened its counter to black customers. The chain continued operating for years, but today that Atlanta building serves as a historical landmark, a reminder of what those students fought for. Think about walking past that building now. Would you know what happened there? And then there's the drugstore that made it all the way to the Supreme Court. Walgreens in Nashville, just another downtown drugstore with a soda fountain, but it became a battlefield on February 20th, 1960. 350 students protested across multiple locations. At Walgreens on Fifth Avenue, students attempted to order and found a sign: "Fountain closed in the interest of public safety." They sat anyway. For nearly 3 hours, police presence prevented immediate violence, but the message was clear: we're not leaving until this changes. February 27th, the violence came. White hecklers pulled students from stools, beat them, pushed a female student downstairs. Police arrested the protesters while ignoring attackers. May 10th, 1960, Walgreens integrated along with 5 other downtown stores, but the legal battles around drugstore segregation continued elsewhere, eventually reaching the Supreme Court in 1970. The ruling made it clear: refusing service based on race, especially with government complicity, violated constitutional rights. Can you imagine a Supreme Court having to explain that refusing someone a soda because of their skin color was wrong? Let's end where many stories of the movement found their voice: at Café du Monde in New Orleans. Before 1964, black patrons couldn't sit and eat. eat, takeout only. Stand outside with your coffee and beignets while white customers lounged at tables under those awnings, leisurely reading newspapers, enjoying the morning. July 3, 1964, the day after the Civil Rights Act passed, Café du Monde served its first black customers without a incident. No protests needed at this location, the law changed, and the cafe complied. Unlike the Emporia Diner in Virginia that used dual menus with inflated prices for black customers, or Ayers Log Cabin Barbecue in North Carolina that displayed signs donating black customers' proceeds to the Ku Klux Klan, Café du Monde simply integrated. Today, it's still there, still serving those beignets, still brewing that chicory coffee, still attracting millions of visitors every year. Tourists from around the world sit at those tables now, people of every race and background, probably never thinking about the fact that 60 years ago, the color of your skin determined whether you could sit or had to stand. The powdered sugar still flies everywhere. The coffee still scalds your tongue if you drink too fast. The beignets still taste like heaven. But now everyone gets to experience it the same way. Do you taste freedom in that powdered sugar? If you enjoyed this video, click on the cards playing on your screen to watch similar videos.